an inexperienced, unqualified, Donnie-style candidate living off of her parents' money has ousted our incumbent mayor. We're going to have a socialist mayor, straight up socialism in Seattle. Seattle being one of the most expensive countries in not just the United States, but the world. Yeah, this should work out just great. Get out the popcorn. Let's talk about it. Here we go. This is some wild stuff. What you've got is you've got Washington State, specifically Seattle, Western Washington. You got a bunch of tech kids that are all here, banging the keyboard, programming whatever, engineering whatever. And they're pissed off because they can't afford a home, can't really afford to have children, can't afford gasoline for their cars, can't afford food, can't afford Uber, because they're all the most expensive in the nation because of years and years and years of progressive policy. That's how you get to this. We're number one in the nation in most expensive, you name it. You name it. I can go through the litany, and I've gone through that litany so many times. But then let's go ahead and elect a socialist and see what happens. So all these tech bro kids who can't afford anything are like, oh, she's going to give us free daycare. Oh, she's going to give us free, whatever. Oh, she's good for the climate. What's going to happen is she's going to tax the F out of businesses. Businesses are going to leave, and more of the tax burden will fall on the middle class and the lower class. That's how it always goes, because progressive ideology doesn't work, and specifically socialist ideology. It's never worked. Why would it work now? Oh, let's give it a run. What could go wrong? What could be worse? What's so interesting is that none of these Democrats ever take any responsibility for, I did that, putting gas prices to the moon. Just, or anything, just housing costs, you name it, that's number one in most expensive in the United States. One of my podcasts earlier today was Washington State has the highest restaurant prices in the nation. Seattle has the highest takeout prices in the nation. Seattle has the highest Uber prices in the nation. Seattle has the highest DoorDash prices in the nation. And it's not because we're upper left coast. It's because of progressive policy applied to everything. Hey, this isn't fair. Those guys need a wage hike. Let's give minimum wages up to, we'll just see how this goes. And then you've got, getting a burrito from DoorDash costs you $32. Costs you $14.99 in taxes. I kid you not. True story. That's how Seattle gets to being number one in so many categories that are just horrific. Seattle Socialist Mayor candidate Katie Wilson credits parents' financial help for allowing her to run. Honestly. Okay, so she's borrowing money because she can't afford to live in Seattle, but she is somehow going to make it more affordable for us. How's that going to work? How's that going to work? I've gone through the litany of her issues that are going to be, I'll just run through them again because here we are. Why not, right? Here is how a Democrat, a socialist is going to absolutely further tank Seattle, get results on homelessness. What are you going to do? You going to upend the homeless industrial complex? No, you're not going to do anything but make it worse, because that's what progressives do. They destroy cities. Read San Francisco. Yeah. Affordable and abundant housing. Affordable. How are you going to bring the price of land down? How are you going to bring the price of gasoline down? How are you going to bring the labor component down? Acquisition of anything, just construction costs, which are all number one in the nation. How are you going to do that? And how are you going to get abundant housing? How are you going to get a whole bunch of housing that's cheap? How are you going to do that? You're not. You're not, especially when you're taxing the F out of businesses. And we'll get to that. We got Trump-proof Seattle. You want to talk about delusion? This is delusion. Trump-proofing Seattle from what? What has Trump done? Oh, no kings? Oh, secret police? Okay. All right. We shouldn't allow people that are delusional to be in office. They should have a psych check. Like, hey, we need to check you because as far as we can see, there's really nothing to Trump-proof Seattle about. But that's a siren call for Democrats. Oh, we need to Trump-proof Seattle. What are you talking about? You're seriously delusional. Transportation and mobility. What are you going to do there that's going to make it better? You're a socialist. You're not going to do anything. We got public safety. Seattle and Washington State has some of the worst public safety in the nation. We have the highest rates of shoplifting in the nation because of progressive policy. So what are you going to do as a socialist to make public safety? Notice how she just puts public safety. I gotta say it. I gotta say something here. Public safety. What are you going to do? Are you going to, you're a socialist. Are you going to get more cops up in there? Defund the police is where you're at. A city for working families. I'm sorry. Working families cannot afford Seattle. We need to get this through people's heads. If you can't afford a city, move. I mean, I'd love to be able to have everybody be able to afford everywhere, but if I can't afford New York City, I'm not moving there. And even if I grew up here in Washington State, which I did, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, I can no longer afford to live here. I no longer want to pay the expensive price it takes to live in Washington State because of 35 years of Democrat terrible policy that has caused everything to just explode upwards in price. So a city for working families. No, this is not a city for working families. Seattle is a city for tech bros. And Katie Wilson will push out tech bros because Katie Wilson will do this, progressive revenue. Progressive revenue. Let's go Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Got a $1.5 billion budget deficit. He's going to have to come up with progressive revenue. It's going to tax the absolute F out of businesses. What are those businesses going to do? The ones that are left? How many thousands of businesses have already left Chicago, already left Illinois because of terrible, terrible tax policy? A lot. We got economic development and vibrant neighborhoods. Well, economic development, when you are pushing out businesses because of your progressive revenue, you got nothing. And vibrant neighborhoods, you mean the ones that aren't being shoplifted from, like Lake City in Seattle? You mean like that neighborhood where Kroger just closed down Fred Meyer because your constituents robbed it blind and there were safety issues and there were overreaching regulatory concerns, is what corporate said. So, you mean that kind of vibrant neighborhood, the ones that get robbed from, like in Kansas City, where you've got the city-run grocery stores? You mean like that are failing, that have failed? Okay, yeah, all right. Climate action and environmental justice. Nobody cares. That is a bunch of crap. It doesn't really matter. You're not having the impact you think you're going to have. We're going to have gas cars forever. You know, this silly little idea that climate action, environmental justice is a thing is, again, just delusion. It's straight up delusion. So, you know, this is the candidate that Seattle just hired. This is going to be fantastic for me, not Seattle. I mean, it's going to be epic. You know, please, baby Jesus, make this happen. Washington tolerating its way to dead last in retail theft. Here are some of those stories. I'm not just sitting here making this up, right? I mean, it goes one after another. Washington has the highest chain restaurant prices in the nation. That's a brand new report. Just podcasted that this morning. Seattle named most expensive U.S. city for takeout. And it's because all of these progressive policies have layered up to the point where everything is so GD expensive. And you can't back that off because all of that layering pays for all this other nonsense we don't need. But nobody's willing to take a hatchet to the budget. Remember what happened when Elon Musk with Doge just went on a bunch of those expenses? Remember what happened? Oh, the libtards just got wildly worked up. Panties in a bunch. Cost of dining report. Yeah, I mean, it's what is so clear about this is that here you go. You've got Kansas, you got Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Arkansas as the cheapest places to eat. That's the common theme there. And then at the most expensive, you've got my state, Washington State, California, Oregon, Massachusetts, New York, Colorado, Connecticut, and Montana. Montana used to be so cool. And then it just, it's like Colorado. What happened there? That used to be a bunch of cowboys running around. Now you got a bunch of libtards in the big cities just running those cities into the ground. Denver. Look at Denver's commercial real estate market. My word. Some podcasts here on that. I mean, some 90% discounts from sales prices that happened just a few years ago. You want to get a deal? Go to downtown Denver. Pick up a couple of big buildings there. So quite clearly, you've got the progressive-run Democrat cities or states here, and then you got the Republican ones on the cheap end. That is just how this goes, right? Here's why Oregon and Washington are sinking in taxes as Idaho soars. What kind of leadership does Oregon have again? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then Washington. Yep. All right. Okay. And then Idaho, Republican. Weird. That's so weird. That's so weird. Yeah, whatever. Seattle now faces the highest DoorDash delivery prices in the United States. Seattle. Because of that minimum wage thing. I gotta make everybody be able to afford Seattle. No, you can't. You can't make everybody afford Seattle because you've already outpriced everybody except for the wealthy. And now you're pushing them out. This should work out just standard. All right, here we go. Study determines Washington has the highest Uber prices in the country. I mean, you literally can't make this nonsense up. It is so epic. Washington chain restaurant prices highest in the U.S., study says. And here we go. Washington, California, Oregon, Massachusetts, New York, most expensive. Again, here we go. Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, cheapest. I mean, do you need a map? Washington leads nation in expensive gas prices, nearly 40%, 7% higher than the national average. These are already existing levels of expensive. And it's because they've become expensive. This isn't based on geography, upper left. Things are just more expensive there. This is based on policy. And you are watching progressive policy unravel on itself because all it does is make everything more expensive. Every single time you put another layer of nonsense into the equation, meaning policy, we're going to do this, we're going to protect this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Every time you do that, it gets a little bit more expensive. That's why in Oklahoma, it's why in Texas, it's why in Florida, you can blow and go development style. You can cut and go. Because you got a $2,000 building permit and you got a couple of weeks lead time on permit processing. Up you go. There you go. Hey, let's build this. And you don't have environmental layers of nonsense. You don't have climate stupidity. You don't have just this crazy nonsense that doesn't really impact anything. And yet progressives think that it is so critical. You know what makes me laugh the most is in doing all the podcasts about California and the refinery issues there. All the refineries are leaving. They're basically just putting a stranglehold on the supply of gasoline to the state of California. So you know what California does? It imports its oil from the Middle East. You know what kind of shipping oil ships, oil transport ships bring in? They're those ones that come into port and you see them way the F out there because they're billowing black smoke. They basically they run on this gunk, this really, really toxic for the environment gunk. But hey, if we bring it in as an import from Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, it doesn't count towards our domestic environmental concerns being California. So, you just got a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And with Washington State, you've got this cap and trade thing with carbon emissions. It's just, we don't have a state income tax, so you got to tax the people somehow. That's how you're doing it. Most expensive gas prices in the United States. All of this stuff just basically goes right on down the line. Seattle, most expensive U.S. city for takeout? Yeah. And here we're back to our main premise. Now, the real question would be, how much damage can Katie Wilson actually do? Well, we know that she can't make things more affordable. Those are only going to go up, because you can't unravel the layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of nonsense that Democrats have done in Washington state. You can't unravel that in the period that a mayor has to work with. Plus, she's the mayor of Seattle. She's not not the governor, we're going to do all this for the whole state. You're not going to have that. Now, Seattle, you're going to have some specific programs that, she's going to be able to get a hold of and run. But, it's not just Katie Wilson as mayor. You have ousted Sarah Nelson. She was a decent moderate. She was a decent moderate, and she was a good leader. And Bruce Harrell, I said earlier, a week or two ago, we're really going to miss Bruce Harrell. And we are. Now, Katie Wilson hasn't absolutely won her election, but she's gonna. And the real deal is that progressives vote super last minute. So what they're doing is they're counting all of these ballots. And by the time you watch this, Katie Wilson will probably be, we're a week, we're exactly a week after Election Day, and we're still counting ballots because, the mail-in. We should have never gone to a mail-in system. Make those bastards go in person. Seriously, make everybody go in person, show an ID. That's fair. This whole mail-in stuff, I don't trust it at all. It's ridiculous. But what can Katie Wilson get done? She can do some damage. She can put some stuff together, because now she has not only the city attorney and Richardson and Davidson. Sorry, she was a Republican. She got elected as Seattle city attorney. She lost. Sarah Nelson, moderate, city council president, co-owner of Fremont Brewing, which has an epic Pilsner, coolest can ever. I diverge. She didn't get reelected. And then we got Bruce Harrell, who, when you talk about, difference between a terrible Democrat and a socialist, you're going to go with the terrible Democrat. And Bruce Harrell was not terrible. He claimed that church-going folks that are having a revival service, a prayer service in a park, were far-right extremists, and that they were responsible for the violence that Antifa heaped upon them. But that's because he's a moderate Democrat and he's trying to get elected in a city like Seattle, and he's just got to go for the jugular. And Republican vote doesn't count here. You got either a bad Democrat or you got a socialist. Those are your two options. Who are you going to choose? You're going to choose the better of the worst, right? The better of the worst. And that is what Seattle is facing. So, circling the toilet bowl? Oh yeah. It's going to be entertaining to watch, because this is one of those things where ideology, because, socialism has always worked, right? Oh, it hasn't? Oh, Why do we keep doing it? Well, because every 20, 25 years, somebody gets a hair up their ass and goes, socialism is great. Seattle's too expensive. Let's bring those costs down. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Especially housing. Never gonna happen. Just not happening. Those days are long gone. This talk of affordable housing is literally just talk. It's just nonsense. And the way that we'll be able to tell this is day one, what are rent prices in Seattle versus down the road? when Katie Wilson's had time for her policies to get in there and, maybe we'll do a little bit more rent control. Let's do some more tenant protections. Let's just absolutely crush the construction of residential units in Seattle, make it so that no builder wants to build in Seattle. And then when you constrict the supply like that real hard, where do you think rents go? Do they go down? You got fewer rental units for more people. Do you think those go? No, they go up. They go up. So we'll be able to, Mom Donnie in office, Katie Wilson in office. We'll be able to, all right, they came in office this day. What did rents do? What happened to affordability? Did our Uber prices all of a sudden just plummet? No, because then you'd have to take people off at $26 an hour, put them back down to 16. And no socialist is ever going to do that. Never happening. So get out that popcorn because it's going to be epic. Again, not for Seattle, but for us to watch. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good show. I guarantee you that. All right. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, do all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.